This episode contains mature language and situations. Listener discretion is advised. Hi, I'm Jason, a creator of The Grey Rooms. Welcome to the second bonus episode of our off-season. I think this one in particular will be a real scream. The episode you are about to hear originally aired on Patreon back in January, as just one of the perks our patrons receive throughout the season for supporting the show. This show has been such a joy for the team and I to put together, and the fact that we are here, behind the scenes working on Season 4, well, it's just amazing. This little dream of ours has grown beyond anything we could have imagined. So thank you, listeners. And more importantly, thank you, patrons. Because without your support, we wouldn't be able to bring all of these horrible stories to life. Now, speaking of the bonus content our patrons receive, this fall we'll be having a special week-long event that only patrons will have access to. And trust me, we went into the depths of hell for this one. But more on that later. If you'd like to join us for this week-long event, or find out more about our patron content and all of the fun bonuses they receive, wander over to patreon.com/thegrayrooms and find a tier that's right for you. Now, on with the episode. You wake, standing on the doorstep of a beautiful mansion. The front door stands open. You can hear voices, music, so many, many people. You step towards the door. You have to know what's inside. You're lost. You have no memory of how you got here. It doesn't matter. Because now, you belong to The Grey Rooms. Welcome, patrons, to your second bonus episode of Season 3.
Yeah, we're in. At the foyer.
You sure he's in a room, ma'am?
Yes. Even now he is... Let me see. He is being torn apart by an entire colony of rabid bats.
I wasn't asking for that information.
You have no chance of interacting with the subject. Move. I need you to take the left-hand path, walk the full length of the North Hall, and exit the manor through the forest door.
I know. But she said the investors are particular.
They are extremely particular. And it is critical we keep them happy.
This pack is heavy.
Do you want to hold the bleeding sack instead? Because this thing is gross.
Is it still...
Yeah, it's still beating.
Nah, I'll keep what I've got. How did we draw the short straw on this?
Ryan and Rachel did it last time. It was our turn.
I mean, like, big picture. You've seen some of the arcana the higher-ups have. Can't they just magic this stuff where it needs to go?
I think she said something about symbolism.
Just so, Stephen. The pacts that bind the investors to the project are specific in their wording and grounded in ancient ceremony.
We're outside, ma'am. We'll be in the woods momentarily.
Stop before you step inside, please.
There's the howl.
We got the howl, ma'am.
Excellent. They're expecting you.
We're here.
All right, then. Beneath the boughs of the wooded copse, we will not be able to communicate, and I will not be able to see what occurs. You have the exact words, all of the components, and the payment. Correct?
We're ready to go. We've done this before, ma'am.
As you know, we've had some odd occurrences of late. We need this transaction to go flawlessly. Report to me the instant it's done.
Yes, ma'am.
She's gone, right?
Shh. Stop a sec. Let me check. Ma'am? Can you hear me? She can't hear us.
Fuck! I can't stand her.
I know. Oh, here, set that thing down. I need a second. Oh, by the pits, this thing is disgusting.
Ugh, it's so damn heavy. You're sure she can't hear us?
When they get a connection spun up to one of the investor realms like this, it causes a lot of interference and scrying. It's part of the pact, I guess. But hey, we don't have a lot of time. What have you heard?
I confirmed it with a cambion down on 8. She's not there.
That's it then. She's in the wind. They don't have her.
How is that possible? We all saw it happen. He threw her over the side and she fell. She had to end up on 7, 8, or 9.
You know there's a level lower than that, right?
If she hit the bottom, she's in his hands, and this has all been a lot of wasted time.
I don't think she's there.
Your girl in the palace.
Yeah, she would have told me.
How do you know you can trust her?
How do I know I can trust you?
Fair point.
Okay, so she's out there somewhere. Fantastic.
I'll ask it again.
Mold, come on.
No, I'm serious. We're both risking a lot here. Tell me again. Why is she worth it?
She's a way out. Whatever her thing is, it's not from here. It's not from the hosts. I can't imagine it coming from, our pointy-eared friends waiting out in the forest.
You know that only leaves one option, right?
Sure, but even if her power is from the far, it's still a way out. I'm betting if she can mind wipe Todd in the middle of the rooms, she can bust a hole in the wall. If we can find her, then you and me and anybody else that wants to, we can get her to bust us out. She needs to be taught how. We can go retire to a nice, cozy locust somewhere. Preferably one with a beach.
You have never been to a beach in your life.
No, I haven't. But they seem extremely nice.
They do. Well, she's not down here. You have any luck reaching out?
I haven't tried yet. You know how hard it is getting in touch with the other realms. And besides, why would any of them have her?
Search me, buddy. I just know there isn't a single demon from layers 1 to 9 who knows the location of Samantha Winters.
I'll try, I guess. Maybe... Shit! We gotta move. We can't break the pact. There, just ahead, in the clearing.
Whoa, slow down, friends.
Apologies for...
You're not late. You're exactly on time. Don't trouble yourself. Please, good soldiers, lower your blades. Our friends from the pit here are just doing their jobs. That pack looks heavy, my friend. Do you need a moment to put it down? Set up the circle?
Yeah, thanks.
You do what you need to do, and I'll take a seat. Yeah, why don't we all take a seat here, huh? You don't mind if I smoke, do you? I mean, how could you?
Thanks.
You can call me Moth.
I'm Steph Akala, and this is Moldraven-ish.
Hey.
Well, on behalf of the court, I appreciate you being out here tonight. It's good to keep the old ways alive, you know.
I suppose that's true. Was it a long trip to get here?
Have you ever traveled between the realms, kiddo?
No. I can't say that I have.
Well, it's a bit of a mindfuck. We have our ways. The trees remember lots of things. Things even we have forgotten. Their leaves rustle with the whispers of 1,000 secrets. Or so the stories go, anyway. To answer your question, no. The way we do it, it's not long at all.
I think we're ready.
Well then, let's get on with the show. Don't want to keep your management waiting, eh?
Greetings and defiance, old allies and ancient enemies.
We stand in the stead of those who hold our chains.
We have laid before you a circle unbroken, that it may represent the alliance between our two realms.
Do you find it whole, Voyager? Does this binding measure the might of our bond?
Yes, in the name of the Summer Queen and all her subjects, I find the binding well measures, blah, 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 blah. Oh, right. What have you brought us? You who are chained to the rock at the bottom of the world. What offering might I convey to my queen?
I place now within the circle that represents our alliance a still beating heart from one of my chain brothers, a worthy payment in deference to her ancient and precious investment in our shared working.
Oh my goodness, this is disgusting. I accept the gift from your masters, O chained ones.
Then let us stand together as those from the pit and those from the grove did in times long past.
We reaffirm our commitment to each other and our great working.
And forever after shall we reap the multitudinous benefits of that work. By the trees of the grove
and the fires of the pit, so do we swear.
So do we swear. Well done, everyone. Another successful handoff in the bag. I mean that literally this time, I suppose. Was he anyone you knew?
Yeah.
Oh, that's a shame. I hope he was a bit of a dick, at least.
Anyway?
Right.
We go first, right?
Traditionally, you leave first, yes? Secrets of the trees and all that.
Right.
Moldraven, whatever your name was, if you wouldn't mind,
Yeah?
would you convey a message to your chain holder, please? Oh, don't worry. The Queen just asked me to pass something along.
Sure.
She asked me to say, we need to talk about the snake.
That's it?
That's it.
All right. I'll tell him.
Delightful. Stay to the path now, kiddies. You never know what's lurking in the forest this time of night. You know what I fucking love about demons? That chain thing isn't a metaphor. Every single one of them. And all you have to do to get them going the direction you want? Pull their chain.
In ritual sacrifice, the knife slips out of your hand. It's all the blood. It may not seem like much, but it puts me in a dangerous position. One wrong move could put my neck on the block. The priests don't take kindly to those that befoul the gifts for the gods. Take this poor man. He had been a respected hunter in our community. Someone said he was throwing his spear into the big man's wife, and now here he is. We're both looking toward the horizon now. He's probably enjoying the spectacular reds and yellows that streak through the breaking clouds, the sun a piercing flame at the horizon. How could you not appreciate the majesty of our culture, of this temple that strives towards a darkening sky? I don't. Appreciate it, that is, but we'll get to that later. I look down the multitude of stairs, stained dark red with the vitality of thousands of such sacrifices. I take it all in. And my friend here beside me weeps. Yes, Baln, it is a sight to make the gods covet our place. I'm honored to be here. The man clutches my sopping gown, burying his head in it, his sobs choked and strangled. I pat his head, allowing my mind to wander a bit. I do that from time to time. I never wanted to be a priest. This man is clearly terrified of me. Not a feeling I relish. But then, I am a coward. I look down into his pathetic face. Best get on with it. Already 3 more are lined up on the stairs. I feel like I'm going down with that sunset, and I'm in no hurry to push the being from which all things flow back down into the dark of the night. I nod to the 3 assembled guards. Really little more than thugs, and they strong-arm good old Baln into position. He kneels, facing the sun. I press down on his forehead, exposing the thick column of his throat. I take in a deep breath, never really enjoying the tricky part. I drag the newly sharpened bronze blade from ear to ear. Black-red blood spills from the awakening opening, but I am not done. Blood is not enough. I drag the blade deeper, and it really is as hard as it looks. The blade slips and cuts deep into the meat of my hand. I don't cry out or stop what I'm doing. Whatever compels me to do this takes hold, and I continue my work. I readjust, and a strap of sinew lashes against my wrist. My hand slides into the gap, forging through wet tissue. I can feel the pulsing. Quickly, I cut further into the cavity around my hand, making room for me to reach down and grasp the beating heart. I do this with relish. It's like coming home and finding the goddess is your new wife. I cut away the tissue around the heart quickly because it must not stop beating. The heart slides from the husk that was Baln, and I cradle it in my bloody hand. It's hard to hold on to. The sun is just going down behind the hill, and I hold the beating heart to the sky. I scream, "For you, Almighty One, I offer this great gift. As it is now, so may it ever be." Baln collapses, and he is quickly pushed over so that he can roll down the long ribbon of stairs. The priests applaud, and the gathered throng cheers. One of the sacrifices vomits. It runs down the stairs alongside the blood. Life and death right there. Can't get much more beautiful than that. I signal to the high priest that I've been injured. After what seems like 1,000,000 sacrifices or so, it's a wonder I have hands at all. He reluctantly lets me leave, and I hustle down the back way, the side of the temple that isn't slick with blood. A cheer rises again, and it sounds like Throw Up Guy just gave his heart to our great country. Now, let me stop for a minute. I'm not saying that I don't have a cushy job. I mean, a few cuts on my hand and 20 years of service doesn't seem that bad. It's the way they went about it, you know? If they wanted me to be a priest, they could have talked it over with me, or at least my parents. I wouldn't say that what occurred was an abduction. My parents at least knew where I was, but there was no say. By the strict calculations of priests, I was exactly 8 turns old. I was also a quarter of a Janelle for the calendar fans in the audience. Young, you see. I knew nothing. I was nothing, and that's how they treated me. It wouldn't have been so bad if they had merely ripped me from a loving home to join their austere order. That I could have lived with. They also cut me. All of the priests are cut, and they singled me out from the multitude for this honor. I still remember the pain. I curled into a ball, my forehead pressed against my knees. I locked my arms around my legs and hugged with all of my strength, willing the pain to stop. I didn't cry, though I did want to see my mother. I didn't ask for her, because I knew even at that young age that I would be denied. I knew I had to keep myself to myself if I wanted to survive. As one of the priests, I saw many such ceremonies in my time. I berated myself. There was nothing I could do. I was one of them, though I loathed them. As one of them, I loathed myself for what I allowed to happen. The night that changed me was frigid. The night we went to get Sliff. We stole him because no one was to know who the chosen one was. Of course, the family knew, but they were so excited that they kept their mouths shut. The cutting ritual that I survived did not go well for poor Sliff. That night, I crawled off the ceremonial slab and looked down into the boy's face. It was not serene. It was like he was caught mid-scream with his mouth open, his tongue skewed to the left and almost hanging out. I could not take how ashen his skin looked when it was bright red only a few moments ago. I stood with my fellow priests in the flickering firelight, smelling the familiar tang of this boy's lifeblood. Slowly, sorrow began to burn away. Kindling burned away in the heat of a towering rage. I wanted to make them all pay. I hadn't allowed myself to think about our beliefs before that moment. But now those thoughts rushed in, carried on a rush of anger. What purpose did this serve? Why did we do this? Was anything these killers said even true? This boy was just one of so many. And I knew then that we had been lied to and mutilated and killed for nothing. Our beliefs, our gods didn't deserve any praise if they demanded a sacrifice like this. In fact, I didn't care if the gods were real and powerful. I wanted nothing to do with them. My fellow eunuchs weren't strong men, and the bronze weapons were near at hand. I knelt, grasped a dagger, and plunged it upward into the closest priest. He cried out, and the blood poured down my hand. The blade was dulled by that strike, the knife slippery in my hands. I continued to stab him, but a burly shoulder slammed into me. I fell back, the air driven hard from my lungs. The guard, of course. The high priest spared my life. I would have murdered him in a second, but they dragged me out and put me in a hole. I stayed there for one run of the moon, and they got to live for a little while longer, and I got to plan. Unfortunately, both thinking and executing plans take a good deal of time. I was young, anxious, and ready to tear down everything that ever existed in my life. I wouldn't be the sole survivor. Of that much I was sure, but I would take everyone down with me. The cycle had to stop, and I had to be the one to break it. I thought of fire, but that could be quickly snuffed out by our faithful guards. No, I needed something that would kill them all at once, something that couldn't be stopped, something foolproof. And not just the priests, not just the guards, everyone. If thousands of innocents die to carve out the murderous ideology of this world, then why wouldn't its end be a noble thing? It was around this time after my confinement that I met Hilar. I wouldn't say it was the worst thing that happened to me, but it would be up there. Hilar. I wish I had not met her. I wanted everyone dead, and that meant Hilar and her family. I didn't care. Hate me, please, because some god somewhere knows I deserve your derision for what I planned to do. Hilar was different. If we had been born in a different time or place, we could have been lovers. I blush to say that because I've never been that close to a woman. I never really talked to one. I certainly didn't have the physical contact with one that I inexplicably yearned for. What could a eunuch do with a woman other than apologize profusely for my obvious deficits? Her skin was the color of honey bark, and her eyes were liquid brown, almost black. She had a shapely figure to my eye and wore a drab, belted dress. If I could, I would have lifted her up and dressed her in the finery I was forced to wear. Neither her skin or her shape was what attracted me. She came to the priests to give offering from her family's small parcel of land. I loved how she would gently stroke the goat's neck so kindly. Her eyes welled with tears as one of the priests slit the goat's throat and caught the blood as the animal died. The first time we met, I was assigned to common sacrificial duty, a punishment for my outburst. I was nervous with my blade, fidgeting with it in my hands. She smiled at me and I dropped it. What do you bring this sacrifice for, sister? I scooped the blade back up and looked at her.
I bring it so that my mother may regain her health. My father is gone, and my brothers are at war. I have no place, and I ask the gods for help.
I wanted to weep. Looking into that kind face, I knew that the gods were a flimsy sham to keep the priests and me in comfort. As I stood tongue-tied, she ran her hand along the goat's back and bit her lower lip. This troubles you, I said without thinking.
My father gave me this goat, and I raised it by hand. His name is Molov. I wouldn't sacrifice him, but he's all I have left to save my mother's life. What is an animal where the life of my mother is concerned?
One of my brother priests approached and urged me to move along. They were watching me, and the line was stretching out behind Hilar. I had a job to do, and I didn't want to do it. Why should I care about this girl? There were thousands of sad stories in the city. Do you want to say goodbye?
I already have.
I put the animal in position, readied my knife, and drew it across the throat. Blood poured from the wound, but I was an expert and managed to save it all. The animal did not bleed, but went softly to his knees and then his side. Hilar kept her hand on his back, kneeling on the bloody floor so that her friend didn't have to die alone. I cried in my room that night, the tears angry and hot. That night, I ran away. I knew I would be punished come the sunrise, but I didn't care. My hatred carried me out of the room, past the guards and into the jungle. There is so much in the jungle that could kill you. I found it fascinating that I could die from the bite of the smallest bug. I walked and thought, and did not listen to the jungle, and so almost died when a buzzing arrow shot past me, nicking my ear. I immediately dropped into the undergrowth. It had to be warriors from our neighboring city out to take our land. I held them in contempt. If they had 1 ounce of sense, they would have scoured us from the world. I waited for them to find me. I didn't know if they would identify me as a priest, and that was troubling. Who would stop my order if I were to die? Around me, I heard the snap of twigs and the rustle of leaves. Then one of the men came into view. The first thing I noticed was his metal clothing. It glinted in the sun, the burnished gold of his chest breathtaking. I had never seen a metal as beautiful. It put our poor bronze to shame. The second thing I noticed was his face. It was as white as the clouds floating lazily in the sky above us. A small patch of hair outlined his upper lip, and a shaggy mat of hair hung down to cover his chin and neck. The last thing I noticed was the long blade in his right hand. It shone silver in the dappled light under the canopy. I'd never seen a weapon like it. It could easily stretch his arm span. I found its point leveled at my neck. The man spoke. I didn't understand a word. I raised my hands to gesture surrender, and a hard thump took my consciousness. I awoke with a terrible headache and sat up. I was at a small encampment on the beach, looking out across the waves. A small brown woman regarded me from across a campfire. Dusk had come, and the metal people now took refuge on the shore. Men like the one I saw in the forest crawled over the beach. They used some sort of dried wood to make fantastic structures, their use unknown to me. I looked out to sea, and I saw what looked like an enormous temple bobbing on the gentle waves. Smaller, floating temples milled about it, taking and bringing essentials to the shore.
It is impressive, is it not?
The woman across from me shifted on her blanket. She was older than I expected and spoke my language. Are we from the same home?
We are all from the jungle. All who live here are one, and they will have need to remember that soon.
Not from my village, then. What are you doing here?
I am a translator for the Golden Men. They call themselves...
Here she made a noise I could not hope to replicate.
I work for them, and in return, they don't kill me.
I frowned. What are they here for?
They want what any men want, to hold this land as their own. If we resist, they will likely kill us all.
My frown blossomed into a smile. Ah, yes. They would kill us all. It couldn't be more perfect. Will you translate for me so I can speak to them?
That depends. What are you going to say?
This was trouble. She wouldn't be on my side to send the Golden Men raping and pillaging into the city. For now, it seemed like we were at an impasse, but I was really not one to let things go. I had an idea and answered, I want to go back to the city and warn the people. What do they want more than anything? I will promise to bring that back and make them go away. I will bribe them to leave. She worried her wrinkled bottom lip with her teeth.
You don't know what you ask. These are dangerous men, and I have seen them kill our kind for nothing at all. This could mean the death of us both.
I reached out and touched her hand. I promise that no more of our people will die. You can trust me. I am a priest. I revere our people and our gods. I watched her carefully as my lie entered her mind. I felt no guilt at lying, if it meant our city would burn.
I will do so then, especially knowing that you are a priest.
She lifted her hand and grunted again in that strange language. One of the Golden Men approached and cuffed her in the head. I half stood when the man pierced me with a hard blue gaze. The man turned back to my conspirator, letting go a string of angry-sounding grunts. She turned to me and said something to the man. Suddenly, the Golden Man grabbed me by the collar and lifted me off the sand.
Tell me what to say.
I can bring you and your people great fortunes if you let me go. She translated and the man's eyebrows rose. I continued, I am a priest and I know where the treasures are kept. If you let me go, I will bring you what I can. This time when she translated, the Golden Man nodded and dropped me back into the sand. He left and brought back a man with an even more startlingly golden medal on his chest. She translated for him.
You will not go alone into the jungle. You will take us, and we will take what treasures you have.
I didn't expect this, though maybe I should have. Regrets are usually saved until after revenge has been taken. I thought of Hilar. I wouldn't be able to save her, and if I tried, I would probably draw attention to her. My eyes burned with unshed tears. I had always intended to get Hilar out of the city. She and I would have lived in peace, perfect and pure. I would have thrilled just to be near her. If I said nothing, he would run me through. If I said I would lead them, then my goal will have been met. Did I care more about the goal than about Hilar? I could not look up. My shame was so great. I will take you. But I warn you that my people are fierce warriors. We will kill you if you try to conquer us." The translator stared at me. The men waited, and then one kicked her in the stomach, shouting words at her. She translated, and the golden man smiled. He pointed to the temple in the bay, and I could see now that hundreds of golden men were streaming onto the beach. They bristled with elongated spears. I knew then that my people were doomed. It didn't feel as good as I thought it would, and I thought of Hilar. I wept. The golden men marched me through the jungle, heedless of the scrapes and poisonous thorns that dragged against my skin. I stood at the front of an enormous wall, gold gleaming to either side of me and disappearing into the thick jungle. The scouts made it to the outskirts of the city before I did. Smoke clouded around us, and my countrymen streamed out, screaming as they fell to the invaders' swords. I couldn't help it. I wept to see what I had done. Once I had shown the men to the riches of the temple, they didn't care about me so much. I had led them to what they wanted. I fell down and wouldn't get up. They left me there. Just another villager. He will go off and die in the way that he finds best. That I did. I sought out the only person who had ever turned the darkness in me. I went to find Hilar. She was at her house, which was a smoldering ruin now. I found her near the back door where she had attempted her escape. I stared down at her face, which managed to be peaceful, solemn, and beautiful in death. It didn't appear that she struggled. I squeezed my eyes shut. No one would come back here for a while. No one would mourn this patch of earth but I. Better a clean death, I say, than suffering for an entire lifetime. My society had done more wrong, had hurt and killed so many. I looked down at Hilar and wondered if I was right. If this was justice. Or was it nothing more than my own hate and need for revenge? I grabbed a nearby blade, a gleaming bronze blade that reminded me of Balm. Was he lucky or unfortunate that he didn't have to live to see this day? Sitting on the floor next to Hilar, I waved the blade. I took her cold hand, tried to work the stiffness from it and couldn't. I will keep this book in my lap for the golden men to find, the stylus darkening the tips of my fingers. Someone will know of what I did here, and they alone can count me a hero or a villain. I will hold the blade against my throat, feeling the bite. I will squeeze Hilar's hand and tell myself that you had to be careful when you slice with a bronze blade. Your hand could slip, and you'll get a nasty cut. But then, is there any other kind?
A Deep Cut, written by Lynda Lampert, with performances by Kelly Nienaltowski as Hilar, Dan Rosales as the narrator, and Blanca Camacho as the old woman. Investment from the Grove, written by Michael Zenke, featuring performances by Margaret Ashley as the architect, Raymond J Lee as Steve, Blanca Camacho as Molly, and Mark Whitten as Moth. Musical composition is by J.M. Scherf. Episode artwork, web development, and creative direction by Cassie Pertite. Social media and Patreon management by Brooks Bigley. Videography by Hale Scherf. Audio engineering and sound design is by me, Jason Wilson. We hope that you have enjoyed your second bonus episode of the season, and we have plenty more horrors in store for you. We just want to take a moment to thank all of you. We really could not do this without your support. This show has been such a joy for the team and I to put together, and the fact that we can be here on Season 3, that's just amazing. These bonus episodes are really just a small way for us to show you our appreciation. And we have more bonus items for you to check out on Patreon soon, so keep an eye out for more private lenses and fun items in the future. As for now, thank you again for joining us for this journey. You rock, patrons, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye.